evening, everyone. There's quite a few people here tonight, but I'd like to call this meeting to order. Tonight is the Board of Trustees agenda. It is February 8th, 2022, and the time is 5:08 p.m. I'd like to begin, as usual, by standing and rising for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so without further ado, I will make a motion to open the public hearing tonight. So I'll make a motion to open the public hearing regarding local law 4-2022, a proposal to amend Chapter 116 of the Village Code, special exception uses. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, all opposed. So the public hearing is now open. Before opening this up to public comment from participants, Ken, I was hoping I could defer this to you. If you can remind everybody what this public hearing is about, provide some context, and even potentially some background as to why we're here and what we have done since the last public hearing, just so that everybody is on the same page. And thank you, Ken.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll speak briefly. I know John Ellsworth from Nelson Pope Voorhees should be on the phone at this point to give a presentation. But in essence, this is the old ambulance barn location that Food of the part of the Hamptons had requested that they be allowed to utilize that space where they are currently operating at Sacred Hearts Church over on Hill Street. The village took a look at it. They were acceptable to the idea of them operating at that location. When we took a look at the code, we realized that there was no food pantry designation in the code. So we actually had drafted prior local law to designate that particular district that they are in to be appropriate for a food pantry. Some litigation ensued after that local law was adopted, and the village stepped back, took a look at that, and made a determination that it would be wiser, faster, and cheaper to rescind that particular local law that had been adopted, and to fashion a study, to request a study be done on the village to determine a planning analysis of what locations may or may not be suitable for this type of use. And like I said, John Ellsworth from Nelson Pope and Voorhees is going to speak on that. We did send this local law to Suffolk County Planning Commission, and they sent back a letter saying, you know, we're not interested. It's up to local determination. So you guys do whatever you want to do. It's okay with us, so to speak. And so that's where we're at. I think, John, are you on the call yet? Kat, can you let John Ellsworth into the call?
Yeah, I would be glad to, as long as the mayor is ready for him.
Yes, we're ready to go. Thank you, Kat.
Hi, John, you're in. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. My name is John Ellsworth with Nelson Pope and Voorhees in Melville. I'm a senior associate. I have over 30 years of experience in land use planning and environmental analysis. So we submitted a report that Ken alluded to. That was the study to investigate whether it made sense to amend the code to accommodate food pantries as a use. So I'm going to give a brief summary of what is in the report that was submitted. The predominant land use in the village, as everybody on this call knows, is residential. However, there's always been a broad range of other supporting uses, including philanthropic and charitable uses, which serve important functions of supporting worthwhile causes, while also encouraging civic responsibility and reinforcing the sense of community. This includes food pantries and related uses. The village, as I mentioned previously, the village retained Nelson Pope and Voorhees to conduct a technical study to analyze how food pantries are currently addressed in the code and to determine whether code revisions would be appropriate to support this use. Under current conditions, as Ken mentioned previously, food pantries can be accommodated in conjunction with another primary use, such as a church. And this is the case with the existing food pantry use at the Basilica of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary. However, currently the code does not currently contemplate food pantry as a standalone use. In light of the overriding public welfare benefit that is inherent to this type of use, the village has indicated that it wishes to explore the desirability and feasibility of a zoning code amendment to accommodate a standalone community food pantry use at appropriate locations with suitable controls. The village code classifies land uses into three categories. Permitted use, those are presumed to be approvable in the given district. They're commonly referred to as of right uses. The second classification is special permit uses. That requires a little more discretion. There's a review and approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals, or in some cases by this board, the Board of Trustees. And the third category are prohibited uses, which are not allowed in the given zoning district. Any given use that's identified in the code may be as of right in certain districts, require a special exception in some districts, and prohibited in other districts. As noted earlier, food pantries are not identified in the zoning code, so this use is not currently permitted as a standalone use anywhere in the village. The village code currently identifies a range of community facility uses, and that's a category of use that encompasses food pantry, but again, food pantries are not currently on the list. The list does include churches and other places of worship, colleges and universities, nursery schools, public libraries, museum, fire stations, and municipal offices. These community facility uses are widely permitted throughout the village, including in residence districts. Churches and other places of worship are allowed by special exception in all residential districts in the village. And since churches can and do include food pantries as part of their mission, food pantries already can and do occur in the village. Therefore, the village code already has a mechanism in place, the special exception provision for places of worship, which allows associated food pantries and is now being considered to accommodate standalone food pantries, again, at appropriate locations with suitable controls. The zoning code provides a series of 13 general standards that are applied to the review of all special exception uses, including, and this is consolidated, it's going to be less than 13. Consistency with underlying purpose and intent of the zoning code, adequacy and suitability of the given parcel, effect on adjacent parcels, impact of the proposed use on places of public assembly, potential traffic impacts, adequacy of off-street parking, loading spaces and driveways, adequacy of buffers and screening, adequacy of stormwater infrastructure, and adequacy of provisions for sanitary sewage and other ways. The zoning code also establishes use-specific standard for certain special exception uses. Currently, such use-specific requirements apply to, among the community facility uses, nursery schools, public libraries, and museums. However, currently, certain of the community facility uses requiring special exception approval do not have any use-specific standards and are only governed by the 13 general standards. This includes public and private elementary and secondary schools, fire stations, and similar governmental facilities. With this in mind, it's proposed, and that's the subject of the hearing tonight, that the village code be amended to allow standalone food pantry use in a manner that is consistent with how similar community service uses currently are regulated under the code. Specifically, in order to ensure that the potential impacts are minimized to the extent practicable, it's proposed that this use be permitted by special exception governed by the general standards pertaining to all special exception uses. And it is further proposed that a set of use-specific standards be established to provide an enhanced means of avoiding or minimizing potential impacts to the degree practicable. Based on the study we conducted, and this has been incorporated into the proposed local law, the proposed use-specific standards for food pantries are as follows. Minimum lot area of 10,000 square feet, located within 100 feet of a business zoning district, located within 500 feet of a major roadway as defined by the New York State Department of Transportation. The lot area contains or adjoins an existing institutional use. The lot does not contain existing residential use at the time of application. And lastly, the number of special exception food pantries shall not exceed 2 in the village at any given time. And the purpose of these use-specific standards are to narrow down where this use can occur in the village, and primarily to avoid the potential that the use can be sited in the middle of a residential. The proposed use-specific standards for the food pantry use are much more restrictive than applies to any of the other community service uses currently permitted by special exception. More specifically, churches and similar places of worship or religious instruction, the use-specific standards include minimum lot size, minimum street frontage, minimum building setbacks, maximum lot coverage, and minimum parking setbacks. And these are similar to what you would see in the site plan review. For a nursery school, the standards for that particular use are minimum lot size, minimum street frontage, minimum play area, screening for play area, fireproofing requirement if student population exceeds 15, and fencing requirement for pools and other water features. Again, the types of things you'd see during the site plan review. Public library or museum, the only requirements that are specified for that particular use are there are requirements for screening for parking and outdoor equipment storage areas. For a fire station, the use-specific standards, for a fire station, municipal office, or other governmental building or similar use, the use-specific standard, there are no use-specific standards, only the 13 general standards apply. And similarly for schools, there are no use-specific standards, only general, the 13 general special exception standards apply. Based on the analysis using the criteria that I listed before, there are only 6 parcels in resident zoning districts that meet the proposed special exception standards for food pantry use. Our analysis was really focused on the residential areas of the village because there are more parcels in the business districts, but the chief concern obviously is where these things can be sited in residential districts, because food pantries are no more intrusive than the uses that are already allowed in business districts. And the 6 parcels in residential districts where the food pantries would be allowed under the proposed law are the ambulance barn, First Presbyterian Church, which is right next door, Southampton Elementary School, Southampton Town Hall, Southampton Train Station parking lot, and an open space parcel at the northeast corner of Wickapog Road and Old Town Road. And as you can C, it's mostly parcels that contain existing institutional uses or had previously contained institutional uses like the endpoints. Importantly, the proposed legislation does not approve a food pantry at any location. It merely creates a mechanism that allows an application to be brought for a use which is not currently allowed anywhere in the village. And that, again, just to remind everyone, we're talking about a standalone food pantry use, not a food pantry that's associated with another use. If the proposed legislation is approved by the board, any such application would be required to undergo special exception permit review, along with separate site plan review and review by the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation. And finally, review of the proposed legislation was conducted pursuant to the requirements of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. And it was determined that adoption of the proposed legislation would not entail significant adverse environmental impacts, and accordingly, it's recommended that a negative declaration be adopted. Any subsequent special exception application for a food pantry would be required to undergo site-specific project review pursuant to SECRE. And that includes my presentation. I'd certainly be happy to take any questions from the board.
Thank you very much. That was excellent presentation, covered all bases. So thank you very much to you and your team at MPV. Now, I would like to see if any board members have any questions regarding the presentation. Okay, I do not see any comments. So we can move forward to opening this up to comments from the participants on the Zoom call tonight.
Okay, Jesse, do you want me to leave Mr. Ellsworth in?
Maybe we can, just in case he needs to answer any questions, if that's okay with you, Mr. Ellsworth.
Oh, absolutely, of course.
All right, and then we wanted to remind everybody, we have 3 minutes per speaker. Charlene will nicely remind everybody on time. So, Kat, whoever is available and would like to come in, we'd
The
like
first
to welcome
person
them.
is Stephen Jones, and all other people that would like to speak, make sure you raise your hand and I'll bring you in one by one. 3 minutes is your time, and Mr. Jones, you're on.
Thank you. I have sent you through Anton Borovina a detailed memo regarding portions of the local law, and I'd like to have go on record as asking that that be included in the record. But I'll quickly summarize what I said to you in the memo as follows. The Nelson Pope report incorporated into the law by reference lacks a GIS parcel analysis for the business and office districts. The special standards for food pantry location in the proposed law emanate from and rest on the residential districts analysis. So you don't know if any commercial parcels exist that meet the standards. Buildings in business, industrial, and office districts are configured and built to deal with impacts such as traffic, accessibility, parking, storage, delivery, trash collection, to name a few. Food pantries in these areas would pose no significant impacts. So when the standards are applied to commercial sites in the business and office districts, these are unnecessarily prohibited from consideration. I'd like to note, by the way, that the current Heart of the Hamptons operation at the Basilica site, held up in the planning analysis and seeker documents as a worthy example, does not meet the proposed standards, since it is not near business zoning and contains residential uses. The definition of food pantry is too broadly defined, which makes it overly inclusive with respect to uses you have not considered. These could emerge as a use or uses for a parcel meeting standards having nothing to do with food distribution, which would be permissible. If it is a food pantry, its primary use should be distribution of food to needy individuals and families. If the objective is to, quote, render charitable support, end quote, don't call it a food pantry, call it a social services center, because you're allowing a whole range of possible social programs relating to housing, health, medical, legal, drug and addiction services for needy families and individuals. Lastly, I just want to say it's important, in my opinion, to formulate regulations and definitions that are clear and transparent, which do not give the appearance that the requirements were in fact reverse engineered to accommodate a particular parcel, which I believe is happening here, and which the village attorney in his opening remarks indicated was happening here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Hi, Mike, you're in and you have the floor.
Hey, everybody. Hello, Mayor Warren and fellow trustees. It's good to see you all. I'm speaking today not as a planning commission co-chair, as my name is Mike Lieberman. I always forget to introduce myself. I figure at this point you know who I am. But I serve on the planning commission. I'm actually a neighbor to this site, and I am chief of ocean rescue. So first I wanted to say that the individual's comments prior to me speaking, addressing these individuals who will be accessing the site, calling them needy, I think is offensive. So I'm just gonna put that on the record, that these people are underserved, they're in our community, and that's how we should think of them. I'm in favor of this as a resident. The only thing I would say is, as chief of ocean rescue, this is a first responder building. Obviously this is not to the zoning, but I'm taking the opportunity to draw attention to this. I hope in the future, Ocean Rescue is able to have a location and have a formal site so that we do not need to rely on our members' homes and or charitable areas such as the Masonic Lodge to have our meetings. I hope perhaps in the future they can contemplate a use where we would be able to share the facility with an organization like Heart of the Hamptons. But that's a secondary point. The point I would like to make is that I'm in favor of this and I agree with it. And I look forward to meeting the needs of all of our community members. All right, thank you guys. Sorry for the rush, I'm packing to go to Panama. All right, have a good day.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
trip.
Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Father Patrick, you are in and you have the floor.
Sorry about that. Trying desperately to get this thing working. I apologize. Mayor Warren, trustees, thank you for allowing me to join and give my comment. I first want to say to Mr. Lieberman, I volunteer my church at any time just down the street for you guys to meet. As a member of the fire department, you're more than welcome to utilize that. Forgive the introduction of that, but just wanted to make that clear. Also, I want to speak in favor of the use of this for Heart of the Hamptons as a member of the trustees, as a priest in our community, and as a member of the fire department and other elements. It's terribly important for us to be able to continue to provide to all segments of our society and our community these opportunities that this affords us to be able to meet the needs of those that are desperately in need of something like this. This facility in question has been utilized in various ways, not just as an ambulance barn, but most recently for a drive-up COVID testing center with a fairly steady stream of business. So I think we've had an opportunity to see how it would function in sort of a drive-up environment and a drive-up services. It really does show how this facility has been used for so many things over the period of time that it has been both an ambulance barn and since it's been that. But I really want to address just to the trustees my gratitude for them taking such a serious approach to this. I know that you've done everything in your power to carefully look at the impacts and the concerns of all the members of the community. And as a member of the community that lives almost in the immediate neighborhood of this area, just down the street on South Main, I know that it's very difficult for us to be able to accommodate these social services, be it a fire department, be it some other sort of establishment. But I also know how important it is for us to be able to share all the great things that we enjoy here with those people in our community who rely upon them. We all rely upon many of the social services that we take advantage of. But in this case, it's so important for us to make that space available for something that can be used by those who have less of an influence, perhaps, than we might otherwise see in our community. I don't doubt that there will be an impact, but it's something that we'll share. And I'm willing to do as much as I can just on the street here to help to aid and to work with the community to make that something that won't be a negative impact. As a member of this neighborhood, being at St. John's, I know how important it is for us to be good neighbors. And in the height of the pandemic, trying to adjust how we operate to make sure that those who call this community and the immediate neighborhood home, it's such a powerful and important part for us to be that kind of neighbor. And I know that, speaking as a member of the Board of Trustees of the Heart of the Hamptons, we are entering into this possibility as good neighbors and want to do everything we can to have to be the very best part of that neighborhood as we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Pastor Sarah. You are in and you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can't see you.
Uh-oh,
Here.
can't see me.
No, do you have a little slide on top of your video camera?
Hold on one second. I just got to pick the right camera. Here we go.
There you go.
All right. I just want to thank the Board of Trustees for this opportunity to speak tonight. I'm the Reverend Sarah Bigwood. I'm the pastor here at First Presbyterian Church, right on the corner of Main Street and Meeting House Lane. And I just wanted to speak to this tonight because I think that we have a unique perspective on just how necessary something like this kind of an organization would be for our community. It has become evident to us and our ministry over the past few months that people are becoming increasingly desperate because some of the safety nets that were in place during the pandemic are now expiring. And we're seeing a greater need trailing that by weeks and months. And I think we're only at the beginning of what might be a larger fallout from the pandemic and from economic hardships. And we're going to start seeing that more in the next few months. And I think it's going to last into the next few years. I think it's so important that there be a commitment to ensuring that there are community safety nets within the village of Southampton. I also think that that is a commitment to our neighbors. And I really appreciate what Mike and what Father Patrick had to say about the dignity and worth of our neighbors, the people who have called this place home, are hurting. And it's important that we have ways of being able to relieve their pain and their suffering, and to be able to allow them to continue to live here in ways, being good neighbors as they've always been. Our village zoning code should reflect our values and our commitment to compassion and to care and to love those neighbors. And a food pantry is part of that community safety net. Beyond that, I think that an organization like Heart of the Hamptons, that has been around in this community for decades now, who has been proving to us that they are good neighbors and good community members, is a really great organization, and that supporting their finding of a great location for a food shelf is important. I know that we've been partners with them for a very long time, and we continue to be partners with them, serving thousands of kids over the holiday season with our toy drive. Giving away over 1,000 toys to kids has been an important part of our ministry, and as well as supporting the actual food shelf. So the kinds of ministries that we can partner with an organization like Heart of the Hamptons is an important commitment to our community. And so I just wanted to express my support, not only for Heart of the Hamptons, but also just for the idea that in Southampton we have this kind of commitment to our neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Bigwood.
Oh, where's the next person? Try again. Hi, Joseph. You are in and you have the floor. Sir?
Yes.
Oh, hi, you're in and you have the floor.
Oh, okay. I live on 64 Meeting House Lane, and I just wanted to give some of my comments, if I may, to the board. I know the process started actually last year before the summer. And my concern, excuse me, is really not the value of the food pantry. I think everyone agrees on that. And the people that have spoken tonight in favor of the food pantry have strictly spoken about the benefits of the food pantry. And of course, those of us who live in the neighborhood don't oppose, of course, the fact that the food pantry should be in the community since it's been on Hill Street for so many years. It really just comes down to the location. And since the attorney who'd spoken, I'm sorry, I don't have your name in front of me, basically said there are 6 possible locations based on their analysis. And I hope that the board considers these other locations other than where the present ambulance building is. My feeling is that it should be analyzed very carefully, but my feeling is also that the thrust of this board is to get it approved at the ambulance center. The Attorney Gray said something earlier that it went to the Suffolk Planning Committee. They were not interested. Basically, do what you want and quote unquote, then it's okay. So that kind of sentiment seems to be part of the whole board. Like, it's okay. Let's just put it where we want it to be, where we actually quickly wrote a lease when the mayor decided to sign a lease with the food pantry without getting all the ducks in order. And ever since this whole process, as a resident, I feel that it isn't transparent. It's, you know, the board has this vision of having it at the ambulance center no matter what. And I'm glad that the attorney who looked at the other possible locations analyzed it to see that there are other possibilities. And I hope the board recognizes this and takes this seriously, because all the other things that he pointed out, from traffic impact to parking to sanitation to noise, residential impact, it seems to me that the board doesn't pay any attention to that, that there is blindfolds here. We're going to have it at this ambulance center because we committed to signing this long-term lease at a very low price to accommodate the food pantry. And again, no one is against the food pantry. We want it to be located somewhere where it doesn't disrupt our residential life. This is what's important. This is what I hope each of you at this committee, at this board meeting, particularly the mayor, which
Mr.
is
Sofer,
trying to
your 3
railroad
minutes.
this through, we're trying to railroad this through, understands the concerns of the people of this community.
Mr. Sofer, your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
All right, I would just like to add a few things for clarification before we go to the next speaker. Just to clarify, the reason why our Board of Trustees and our village attorney reached out to the Suffolk County Planning Commission was to seek input. And the Suffolk County Planning Commission did not say to do whatever we want. The Suffolk County Planning Commission determined that this was a matter of local determination. That's exactly what you have local boards for and what we're doing here tonight. And then secondly, the Board of Trustees, not myself, decided to execute a lease with the Heart of the Hamptons. That actually board, some of those people are here today, some are not, but that was a decision done unanimously with people from various political affiliations and political ideologies. So we actually couldn't agree on a whole lot, us and the prior board and myself, but we actually all agreed on that. And then secondly, regarding the transparency of the process, I can defer this to our village attorney, Ken Gray, who can discuss all the steps that we took in order to properly notice this out, to make sure we're in compliance with the Committee on Open Government, and to make sure that we followed all New York State laws and New York State village laws. So maybe, Ken, if you can just inform everybody, just so we're on the same page as far as all the steps that we took to notice this out and to adhere to all of the state laws that are in place.
Well, yeah, well, certainly, you know, we drafted, we had the law drafted. Nelson Pope and Voorhees took care of that. We forwarded to the Suffolk County Planning Commission, as I described, which was pursuant to New York State General Municipal Law. We received back their feedback, you know, as you pointed out, advising us that they're going to defer to local determination, which is this board. We published it in the paper as required, and it was, you know, a draft of the document was provided to the mayor and the trustees in accordance with required laws. So we have, in my opinion, satisfied all of the requirements to move forward with this public hearing. And then once you either continue the public hearing to another day or eventually close the public hearing, you are then free to make a secret determination, State Environmental Quality Review Law Act, which Nelson Pope and Voorhees has prepared the necessary environmental assessment forms and has made a recommendation. So you'd be free to adopt the recommendation and then adopt the local law if that is your your preference.
Thank you, Ken. So I appreciate that. Well, we can move forward with another speaker, but I just wanted to clarify those particular points, and particularly the points on the process and proper notifications to the public, so that we can end that discussion. So the next speaker, Kat, I'll defer to you. And thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate all the comments from the public.
Hi, Judith, you're in and you have the
Yes, hi.
floor.
Hi, I do not live in the exact neighborhood. I can't start my video because I'm on my iPhone.
Okay.
But I don't understand why anybody would want to have a food pantry with people coming and going right at the crossroads of the busiest intersection in our village. It's hard enough for people to get now because you cut the road off by the school. People have to go down Meeting House Lane just to get to Job's Lane if they don't want to drive down Main Street. It just does not make any sense to me to add more congestion and of the volume you seem to be speaking of with food deliveries, waste deliveries, people coming right at the busiest, one of the two busiest corners of our village. It's crowded enough, especially for at least 6 months of the year, if not more, as more and more people are living out here. And I totally, having just come back from making 70 meals for people in my neighborhood, believe in feeding the people. But there are many other spots that this could be done, even by the train station where there's not a lot of traffic. You know, why not look for places like that that aren't going to congest our beautiful little village, which is congested. Sorry, that's it.
Thank you, Judith.
Thank you, Judith, for the comments.
Jim McFarlane is coming in. Jim, where are you? Oh, I will try one more time for you, Jim. Oh, there we go. Hi, Jim, you're in and you have the floor. Jim, you're in and you have the floor as soon as you unmute. All right, well, I'll bring another in while he's sitting there. We'll see if he's having a problem.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. This is not my bag of tricks, all this. But if I was looking for a planning company to obfuscate the real elements of the question with verbiage, Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees comes right at the top of that ladder. Thank you very much, you bleep artists. The neighborhood group I represent has repeatedly shown through logic and with the aid of eminently qualified consultants, such as Stephen Jones, from whom you've heard, and from whom you have a monograph about this issue that is exemplary, that the site of the former ambulance barn in the densely built out residential district on Meeting House Lane is not the optimal site. It's not even a minimally acceptable site for any food pantry or a similar use. Sham law. This is a sham law because it's been designed to put the ambulance barn, 44 Meeting House Lane, into the sights of the decision makers to make it the ambulance barn. And anyway, that is very sort of offensive a little bit. You have to cite the heart of the Hamptons, someplace that would enable it to develop. It should not be necessary to state that our disagreement is not about the virtues of the heart of the Hamptons. It's about finding the best site that will enable Heart of the Hamptons to broaden its ambitions for multifaceted social services without being constrained by the size and location of the facility. I hope I don't run out of time, but 10,000 square feet for all they have in mind and for that particular location is too little. By the way, none of you planning commissioners or trustees know that traffic of trucks is forbidden on Job's Lane and Main Street, which means that all the deliveries and the departures would have to be over South Main or East and West on Meeting House Lane. Further, in your law, there's no real legal definition of food pantry. There's no adequate and reasonable definition, nor are there any constraints placed therein, which means that the building could eventually be used as a drug rehab facility. And finally, the lease violates the New York State Constitution. The present lease or lease agreement with Heart of the Hamptons violates the Constitution, and immediately after this meeting, we intend to file suit to have it declared null and void. It does not provide fair and adequate compensation to Southampton Village for the use of this facility. That's it. That's the end of my thing. If anybody has any questions, they can call me at home, 516-702-2538.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Anton Borovina, you're in next, and you have the floor, sir. There we go.
Oh, can you hear and see me? Mr.
Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
members of the board, Anton Borovina represents several neighbors who own homes located within residence districts that would be affected by the local law. While the board is correct in concluding that the local law, if adopted, constitutes a type 1 action, it has no basis to conclude that a negative declaration should be issued because its adoption would not pose any environmental significant impact. The bottom line is that you are required under state law to take a hard look at all environmental impacts to determine their significance, and if significant, to consider and take into account appropriate mitigation measures before you even proceed. You didn't do that. There's no question in my mind you didn't do that. The record before this board consists of a report by Nelson and Pope and an EAF, which itself is based upon the report by Nelson and Pope. So essentially, the only thing you have in front of you is the report done by Nelson and Pope. By its own admission, the report says it only, under the GIS, it excluded, took into account only residential parcels. You have no idea what kinds of alternative sites are available in non-residential parcels. By the way, lo and behold, and what a coincidence. After applying the criteria to the GIS, you came up with 6 parcels. One happens to be the one at Meeting House Lane. You, as Mr. Jones said, and his resume speaks for itself, it's included in his memo. He's an accomplished and well-recognized national land planner. You exclude parcels located within the office and industrial district. You have no idea what parcels might be available there. You exclude parcels within the business area that happen to be not located within 500 feet of a road, arterial road, or within 100 feet of institutional presence. Now, interestingly enough, and you know this, and let's not insult anyone's intelligence here. You know that business district, including commercial and industrial, are designed to accommodate traffic, parking, noise, odor, garbage collection, truck delivery, and all the supermarkets, and all the kinds of things, frankly, that would be consistent with a food pantry use. But you didn't consider that, and you know, and I know why you didn't consider it, because you don't confuse me with the facts. You don't care what the facts may show. You are just determined to make sure that it's located on Meeting House Lane, and you know that. And it's a transparent effort, and Mr. Gray, the village attorney himself, has acknowledged that. By the way, the definition, to make matters even worse, your definition of food pantry is so large, it encompasses any conceivable charitable use without so much as one donut being dispensed to any person in need. That's how broad your local law is.
Mr. Borovina, your 3 minutes is up.
May I say, by the way, the local law itself was adopted. You did not consider proper alternatives. You did not invoke the proper process for the adoption of local laws by excluding process. And frankly, I would like to know, and I'll just close with this. I would like to know if the food pantry currently, the Heart of the Hamptons, is located at a church. Why did the church kick out the Heart of the Hamptons? Why is the church forcing this kind of an issue on residents? I don't understand how, on one hand, the church is an a charitable institution, but yet allowed this kind of a result to occur. I'm curious to know that, but I say that as an aside. I stand by my objection. You failed to take a hard look. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Borovina.
Thank you.
Okay, next in is Linda Riley. Come on, Linda. There we are. Hi, Linda, you are in.
Hello. I just want to address a few of the points that have been brought up so far tonight. One is in terms of process that I disagree that a hard look was not taken. A hard look was taken. This is a type 1 action. Everybody agrees on that. There's no quarrel there. And it requires a hard look being taken by the board. And there are certain steps procedurally and substantively that the law requires that the board do in order to take a hard look and to make a valid determination under the environmental laws. This the board has done. It requires that you consider the action, prepare and review an EAF. You would be the ones to prepare it because it is your local law. To thoroughly analyze relevant areas of environmental concern and set forth in a written determination of significance, which is part of the record here. I've seen it. Containing a reasoned elaboration and providing reference to any supporting documentation. The law goes on to provide some more specific criteria, which I can go through, but it'll take a while, and I want to make some more general points first. So aside from the fact that I disagree that appropriate thought and study wasn't given to this as a type 1 action, I also want to point out that the law does indeed provide and allow for these uses in commercial districts. It's section 4 of your proposed law. So if someone, anyone, including Heart of the Hamptons, comes up with an appropriate site for what they think their needs are, or any other food pantry, that is an option in a number of places. The fact that Nelson, Pope, and Voorhees may not have specifically investigated every lot in a business district is irrelevant, because as they explained, what the opposition has been all about up till now is a particular location. And what is before this board right now, today, is not about a particular location. It is about allowing a food pantry as a standalone use with many special requirements that have to be met in either a business district or a residential district, provided that certain criteria are met. The Heart of the Hamptons or anyone else applying for a food pantry is still going to have to get a special permit use showing that they comply with each and every one of the general conditions and the special standard conditions that are applicable. They are also going to have, and there'll be a public hearing there. They also, and it'll be site specific. They're also going to have to apply for site plan approval before the planning board. And once again, the planning board almost always requires a public hearing on these kinds of applications. It'll be site specific, and it will be pinpointed to whatever particular location is proposed and how the environmental factors relate to a particular location as opposed to a use.
Ms.
So-
Riley, I hate to interrupt, but we're at our 3 minutes.
Okay, well, those were my major points.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda. And again, thank you for pointing that out. There are a lot of people here in support of this. There are a lot of people here not in support, but I do appreciate you pointing that out, that this will, of course, need to go for a site plan review in front of the planning board, which will look at all those specific factors that many of the opponents of this are actually asking for. So I would recommend everybody, once it gets to the planning board phase, to also participate in that public hearing. And so again, some of these arguments, might be better equipped actually in front of the planning board, as this is for a special exception use. And there's other reviews, again, site plan review being one of the most important ones in front of the planning board. So thank you, Linda, for pointing that out.
Hey, Father Patrick, you have the floor.
Your Honor, if I may be recognized not to make comment, but to try and give a brief answer to Mr. Borovina's question about why the Heart of the Hamptons is being, quote, thrown out of Sacred Hearts. May I be recognized, sir?
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I just knew that I'd already had my comment moment. Very briefly, I do want to say that we're not being thrown out. As a trustee, I have some insights and have had personal conversations with Father Mike, the pastor of that church. The decision is being made after decades of being a very warm and very hospitable relationship with the Basilica, that because the Basilica's growing ministries and needs, they're in need of that space now. And this is actually because of the careful review of the trustees in this process. It has gone well beyond the point that Father Mike has needed that space vacated. And he has been very hospitable and very open to extending, seemingly really quite limitlessly, for us to be able to continue to utilize that space, again, very amicably and very cooperatively, so that he's able to eventually get that space back inside his organization in its property to be able to use for its ministries. But I just wanted to clarify, to answer for his question, as he said he wanted to hear an answer, that really we're not being thrown out, and indeed it's being extended as far as we need to be able to accommodate. So thank you for that moment.
Thank you, Father Patrick.
Father Patrick, thank you for clarifying. That was very helpful. Kat, do we have anyone else? I believe there's a few more participants at least.
Yes, the computer is switching them. One is
Okay,
Molly
thank you very
Bishop.
much.
Molly Bishop
Thank
is
you.
in. Hi, Molly. Unmute, start your camera. You have the floor.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Molly Bishop. Hi, everyone. I'm the Executive Director of Heart of the Hamptons. We are the only food pantry operating within the larger Southampton community. And for over 30 years, we have occupied a portion of the basement at Sacred Hearts Church that comes with its own challenges. And like Father Patrick just said, their growing ministry is making that space in the future unavailable to us. But our goal has always been to ensure everyone in our community knows that they are not alone. We provide food, basic essentials, and financial support to ensure a stable home for all local families. Through the pandemic, we have seen the needs of our community dramatically increase. In 2020, families that never needed us found themselves in need. And thank God in 2021, we saw a great many of them become self-sufficient, but many are still struggling. We now have a consistent client base that in the winter months brings us about 100 to 150 families that's spread out over 4 hours of distribution. In the summer, when work is more available and our village becomes busier, we average only about 50 families per week over those 4 hours. We provide nearly $1 million in food support annually, and in 2021, distributed 177,000 meals worth of groceries. Local families depend on us to put food on the table. And it is staggering that over 50% of students in our area depend on free or reduced breakfast and lunch. And we are here to ensure that they have food at home too. For many families, it is not just about providing food, but they struggle to have the resources necessary to keep the lights on, their homes warm, and even a roof over their head at all at times. Our assistance program, mostly conducted over the phone, provides financial support for families and seniors with these basic needs. Of our current registered clients, nearly 18% of them reside within Southampton Village, which represents 786 people, which is nearly 25% of the year-round residents of Southampton Village. In total, 63% of our clients live within the Southampton and Tuckahoe school districts, who consider Southampton Village as their village too. Another 10% of our clientele are coming to the Village Business District daily for work and aren't able to make it to their home pantry during their work hours. This past year, for the first time, many of our clients even struggle to afford soap, toilet paper, and other basic essentials. And so we are providing those as well. In honesty, I couldn't possibly do our programming justice in the 3 minutes that are provided to talk. And the cost of living in Southampton is so high that it's almost remarkable that any families can afford to live here on the seasonal wages that they make, that we are so dependent on. I have to say that I am truly disheartened by the fear mongering and investment in blocking our existence in this community. To borrow their words, the only thing that would fundamentally alter the character of this community would be if Southampton is no longer a place that cares about those that might be in need. I am so grateful to this board for their continued commitment to our mission. I applaud you for your leadership and am proud to be from a village that invests in helping others. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Sean, you're in
Thank
and
you,
you have
Molly.
the floor.
All right, thank you, Kat. My name is Sean Hattrick. I am on the board of trustees at Heart of the Hamptons, and I've lived or worked in the village of Southampton for all of my 51 years. I currently work on the corner of Meeting House Lane and Main Street and park in the parking lot. So I'm very familiar with the comings and goings of that parking lot, you know, for the last 13 or 14 years. You know, it's amazing to me. I know we have to go through this process because everybody needs to be heard, and we need to explain what we're actually going to be doing there. And there are neighbors and there are ramifications for us coming in. And we have done that. Molly has, on 3 or 4 occasions that I've witnessed on these public hearings, said when our services are going to be during the day, how willing we are to accommodate different times. We're not there on the weekends. We want to be the best neighbors possible. It is our mission to be good neighbors. The last thing we want to do is upset people around us. So I'm stunned with some of the people that are so vociferous against us. I've never seen them at Heart of the Hamptons. I grew up on Hill Street. There's never been a parade of trucks and whatever they perceive is going to be happening on Meeting House Lane, which will never go down their road. It stops before it even gets to them. But we've existed on Hill Street for years, and it's the mirror image. You know, we're about a third of a mile west of Monument Square today, and we're going to be a quarter of a mile to the east of it when we go to the ambulance barn. It's a straight route, you know, from one to the other. The names of the roads changes, but Hill Street turns into Job's Lane and Job's Lane turns into Meeting House Lane. I can tell you that I have never once heard somebody, and it's the mirror image. You know, at our current location, we have the church to our east. At our future location, we're going to have a church to our west. We have residents to the south of us on Hill Street, to the west of us on Hill Street, and to the north of us on Hill Street. Not one of them has ever complained. And that is something to consider. You can do all the studies you want. We've got a 35-year history of doing the right thing for this community and not pissing off anybody. Not one person has ever complained. And now we're going to be across from the parking lot from a church who wants us there. And across the street from us, not our residents, but as a historical museum. And then there are businesses. And yes, there is a neighbor, you know, there are neighbors to the south and to the east of us. But I will defy them to be upset with us in 5 years. And I understand when something new moves into town or into your neighborhood, you have questions and you have concerns. I can only promise you that we are not, you know, we're not going to embarrass this board for letting us go there. It is not our nature. You know, we're not mercenaries. We're not making money at this. We're there trying to be better people, and we're better for it. And this village will be better for it. The character of our village depends on having something like Heart of the Hamptons in it. And I think the character of Meeting House Lane will be improved. They just don't know it today, but you will. I promise it. And so I thank this board, you know, for all of your efforts. I know this has been a back and forth for a while, and sometimes we're taking a step backwards and then to move forwards. But I believe we are doing the right thing, and you are doing the right thing for approving this, hopefully. And I promise you, if you do, you will be proud of us and you'll be proud of yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank
Hi,
you, Sean.
Joanne. Hi, Joanne, you're in and you have the floor. Here's a request to unmute.
Hi, my name is Matthew Hale. I'm Joanne's eldest son and the trustee of her home, 51 Meeting House Lane. She's over here. She's not feeling very well, so I'm going to speak in for her today. I'd like to start by thanking everyone for the opportunity to have the forum to speak on behalf of the residents of Southampton Village. I don't think there's any doubt at all that the village of Southampton, along with many cities around the country, are in need of a food pantry and of additional services for those in need. My wife, in fact, works for City Harvest in New York City and raises millions of dollars a year to feed those in need. So there's nobody that understands that more than myself and my family. We're very involved in the community of giving back. That being said, there's a couple things I'd like to address today. One, there's no better way, in my opinion, to provide for the residents of the community than giving back at the church. So I don't understand where Father Patrick says that they're grown and they need the space and they're going to basically grow their parish and ask such an amazing organization like Heart of the Hamptons to vacate the property and to go find another place to provide. What better, in my opinion, would there be than to have Heart of the Hamptons there to provide for all of those in need right there at the church. The other thing I'd like to bring up is what Molly had said. Molly, I mean, fear mongering and blocking your existence, that's not the point of these discussions and these conversations. We all agree that Heart of the Hamptons is important. It's a strong part of the Southampton community, and we're all for it. us residents that live close nearby on Meeting House Lane, we just see it a little bit differently because it's going to require a lot of effort to provide all of the services that are in need, especially with what's going on with the pandemic today, what's going on with the COVID. There are more people out there that need than ever, and we don't want to be by the space at hand to provide for those in need. And I just don't see where you're going to be able to have people come without obstruction and to have access to get in and out and to have the amount of food that needs to be delivered and the amount of services that need to be provided on such a small street. It just doesn't make sense to me. The other thing I'd like to say is that it's been brought to my attention that there were a lot of changes to the code and to basically the redistricting of the residential area, which I think sets a dangerous precedent. You know, you don't want commercial businesses and operations in a small residential community. And Southampton is a very special place. I've been going there my entire life for over 30 years, and I'll probably live there full time someday. I spend maybe a half the year there now, and it just needs to be preserved. There's absolutely an environmental impact, a social impact, an economic impact here that I just think needs to be evaluated, and I don't think it has been based on everything I've read and everything I've seen, discussions I've had with our local neighbors. So once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And we just urge you to take another look at where this venue might be better suited, where there's better access, where there's more space, where more facilities can be provided, where there's just more room for this to be fully embraced by the community, rather than a small private area that's a half a block off the main avenue of Job's Lane and Main Street. It just doesn't make sense to me, where you need so much help, so much to be provided for in such a small area. That's
Mr.
really all
Hill,
I
your
have.
3 minutes are up.
Yep. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew. And we hope that your mom will feel better. And thank you very much for the comments. And then I would also.
Go ahead.
Oh, please feel free, Kat.
I was just going to say there are no more hands up.
Okay.
Kat, I do have people who did sign up to speak. I have Helene Fagan.
Oh, she's in. I'll bring her in.
I have Paul Fagan, I have Kimberly Allen, and I have Lane Bretschneider and Mark Underberg.
Okay, well, they're all in. Hopefully they know how to raise their hand. I'm bringing the one in. Come on now. Sometimes it takes a second. So Helene is coming in. We should see her any second. All right, so that was the second attempt to bring Helene in, and it said she was coming in, so I don't know where she's gone. So I'm going to bring in the next person. So Jim McFarland has his hand up.
He already spoke.
Okay.
Kimberly Allen?
Yes, I'll bring Kimberly in. There's Kimberly. Hi, Kimberly, you're in and you have the floor. Hi, and you're muted. Here. Here you go. Unmute.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Councilor Gray, and Village Administrator Kegel Betts. I just want to repeat that nobody is arguing with the moral imperative of a charitable organization such as a food pantry. This is not the point. It has never been the point. The question is whether placing a food pantry into an already dense residential neighborhood is the way to go. So please don't put words in our mouths to the contrary. That's not the situation here. What we're asking is that the village board do what they should do, which is conduct the right due diligence and be transparent in their approach. And in my view, it's been a little bit choppy and sketchy. Your document, which I got last night at 5:39, suggests placing up to 2 food pantries in various locations: Meeting House, Elm Street, the corner of Wickapog, Old Town Road, Pine Street, and Flying Point Road. But none of those are really going to fly. It's really targeted for 44 Meeting House Lane. I mean, look at me. It's really targeted for 44 Meeting House Lane. If it's a charade. But I guess my question is, why did you focus on the most dense residential areas comprising less than 20% of the village? And why do you recommend placing a food pantry on a key artery to the hospital and on the smallest street in the village where we have the most traffic? It just doesn't make sense to me that you didn't analyze the entire village and include light industrial. So, you know, one of your key criterias, which was in your document last night, is that the food pantry be within 500 feet of a collector street. So South Main Street is a collector street according to the Department of Transportation. The village code forbids large trucks on Jobs Lane and Main Street. So they're not going to go from Hill up Jobs Lane and down to Main. They're going to go from Hill to Windmill Lane, out to North Sea, onto County Road 39, down David White's Lane, back to Hampton Road, up Little Plains Road, and if Meeting House Lane is congested, they're going to go down Herrick or Toilsome down South Main, which is a collector street. Then they're going to go to the busiest intersection and pull in. And it's not that we see millions of trucks coming in, but Long Island Cares provides 1/3 of the food of food pantries on all of Long Island. I've driven behind their trucks. They're not small and they're not infrequent. And we're just simply asking you to think about these items. The secret analysis doesn't consider traffic and was, in my view, it's just incomplete. The second obligation is transparency, because this is tricky. As a former sitting trustee, you're following kind of the protocol. You know, you put the ad in the paper, but at the last meeting on January 13th, 50 minutes in, when everyone's eyes were glazing over and the public section was already gone, this sudden agenda item, supplemental agenda item, gets added. It was so vague and cryptic, I thought I was listening to the Joker telling riddles. And it wasn't until Trustee McLaughlin asked some questions that we realized it was a zoning code. So, you know, I have to say, at that meeting, you said Kathy Eisman had done the secret analysis. She didn't. She did a planning analysis. So it all seems very convoluted.
Ms.
So-
Allen, your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, well, I have one last thing to say, since you allowed another person to speak, which is I foiled for all these documents so I could follow what you're doing, and I didn't get a response. So I had to appeal with Albany's help, and I got them all last night at 5:39 p.m. That's how the residents feel. So, you know, let's work together. Let's figure out a really good place, and let's have more honest and open dialogue, and let's not always think the worst of each other, because we certainly don't. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, Charlene, the others?
I have, so I see Helene is still in here.
Yeah, I will attempt it again and see if she comes through.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it says she's going to join as a panelist, which it did before. And here she is. Good. Hi, Helene, you're in. If you could start your video and unmute. You have the floor. Hi, Helene.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, it's nice to see everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. And I feel the way Kimberly feels, that, you know, I almost didn't want to say anything because it's such a good cause. And it's intimidating to say anything when it is such a good cause. And we certainly support a food pantry in the community. But, you know, we're very close by on South Main Street. And we just feel that the impact that it's going to be to us and our neighbors and people that come into the village is just going to be not good. And there's got to be a more commercial area in the village that you could put the pantry in. And that's our only reservation. We think it's a great cause, and we want to help all the needy. So like other jurisdictions, the village of Southampton has zoning codes to protect the residential character of our community. These codes are what ensures that my neighbor next door cannot one day decide to open a drive-through takeout restaurant or establish an auto body shop or some other type of use. As residents, we look to the village to enforce all our codes. The process being used by this village board or lack thereof to make significant changes to the residential 12.5 zoning code throughout the village is cause for concern for the precedent it may set for the future. I feel this process is being rushed and hushed to try to include food pantries as an allowable use within these densely populated residential districts. Will it not forever change the character of our quiet community, adding cars, delivery trucks, dumpster trucks, noise, and probably odors to the residents of the village who will be affected? This proposed change needs to be fully disclosed. And lastly, in closing, may we request that the Village of Southampton Mayor and Board of Trustees perform a comprehensive review and prior to taking any action to amend our village zoning code, share any such findings with the residents of this village. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Helene. Another name, Charlene?
Mark Underberg.
I have a Mark and there's no last name.
Mr. Underberg, do you wish to speak?
All right, let me bring this Mark in. It's probably Mr. Underberg. Mark, by any chance, are you Underberg?
I am Underberg, yes.
Okay.
How do you like that? Well, I hadn't intended to speak, but as long as I'm here, I recognize the need for the food pantry to find a better location. And I guess I would just ask, and I'm open-minded, actually. I'm a neighbor on an adjacent street to the ambulance barn. And maybe it would be helpful if the board could address why it believes that the ambulance barn is the optimal location. I'm willing to be persuaded, certainly, but I just like them to share their thinking. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Okay, another name, Charlene?
Mark Schiffer.
Got it, Mark Schiffer. Hi, Mark, you're in. Hi, Mark.
How are you? Well, actually, I wanted to listen as the co-chairperson of the Planning Commission. I wanted to, hear all the discussion about it, which is, I think, extremely healthy, and to understand all the issues. And, the Planning Commission will be glad to provide any help it can to the Board of Trustees if needed. And I think that it's we should continue the process. So I have no real further comment.
Thank you,
on
Mark.
this. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
Great night.
And now I have Lane Bretschneider. I believe he's the last caller. I have the last person I have on my list.
Okay, I found him. Or her, him or her.
Him.
Okay. Okay, Lane is in. Hi, Lane, if you can hear me, start your camera and unmute. And you have the floor.
Lane, you're still muted.
Yeah, it's processing.
Lane, I think you need to push the button for unmuting. We see you there.
I'm sending it to him over and over. It should be right on your screen, Lane. I'm asking you to unmute. Nothing. Lane, you're on mute. It's not that your computer is down. You have to unmute in order to speak. If you're on a phone, it's *6. If you're on your computer, you have to hit the unmute or we cannot hear you. And I'm getting nothing. All right, I'm going to put you back and let the mayor continue. Okay, Mayor, we tried.
Thank you. I want to make sure, I know Lane was patiently waiting to make some comments here. I think it's important to get everybody on the record. I see Lane. It looks like there is one caller, but it also looks like he's in with his either phone or computer. So
Okay,
again,
do
Lane,
you want to try the phone, Mayor?
short. Does anyone know
Let's
Lane's
see.
number? Is it a 516 number or 516-978-7054? Does anyone know his number?
I believe that's him.
All right, I'm unmuting the caller. Let's see if
Let's
that's
do
it. And I'm also promoting Lane again, so the both will be in.
Again, Lane, you have to raise your hand. Kat will let you in, and then hit the unmute button, which is the microphone on the bottom left-hand portion.
Okay, so talking is permitted for the caller. Are you on, whoever you are?
All right, in the interim, we'll see if Lane can get on. If anyone knows him, feel free to give him a call and let him know that you can try to walk him through it. But in the interim, I wanted to open this up to comments from board members. So if there's any board members who would like to make a comment for the record for this public hearing, now is the time before we make a motion to close the public hearing. So are there any board members who would like to make a comment?
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make one brief comment, if I may.
One moment, I think Lane finally got in. Lane?
Am I in?
Yes, you are.
Oh, say hallelujah.
Okay, good.
So I just wasted my 3.5 minutes trying to get in.
No, you didn't. You have
I
the
know.
floor.
I'm just
Okay,
joking.
we'll move on to the next speaker then. Since he used
Okay. I had so much to say, and I've lost my complete train of thought trying to do this. But first, let me say, it seems that are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay. It seems that a lot of people have realized that they should be in favor of the pantry, that it was a mistake the last time they were here to say, oh, we don't want a pantry
Okay.
Are we now gun ho for this pantry, but we still don't want it in our backyard. Right. So where do you want it? You want it anywhere else?
Okay, so Lane, not only were we having heard you on and off, but you also hit the mute button in the middle of it. You are muted again.
I
There.
just hit unmute.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. We have to stop jumping around and saying, you know, we're in favor of this now, just find another place. Let's stop the nonsense. Let's stop costing this village thousands of dollars to defend this. These people need this. Like, you're better at letter writing. The three people, and they know who they are, starting with Mr. McFarland.
I think we have lost you, Lane. All right. It's up to you, Mayor.
All right, let's open this up to board members. If Lane could get a better phone or a Wi-Fi connection, we can let him finish his portion. But let's open this up to board members. So if there's any board members who would like to make a comment, feel free. I heard Trustee McLaughlin was interested in making a comment.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I guess we'll go first. This process has been going on since I was elected, and obviously the neighbors of the proposed location have their concerns. That being said, this public discussion tonight has more to do with the code than it does the location, as Linda Riley so eloquently pointed out. That being said, I do believe this board should encourage and expand the scope to allow these venues in other areas in addition to this current location, just to make sure that we are not singling out any one location. I do believe that we do have a lease with the Heart of the Hamptons. It's been in effect for a couple of years, so obviously they should go forward, and those concerns that the residents are raising those concerns should be heard at the appropriate board, i.e. zoning board, planning board, and ARB, if given the issue. So I would say that this hearing tonight is more about the code, not about the individual location. However much it could appear that it is about this one location, because it's the only location that Heart of the Hamptons has a lease for. So I actually would, going forward, I would like to see this board expand those types of venues to allow them in light industrial and other areas, not just one zoning district. So I would, so with that, I do want to just say any issue with regarding traffic or noise or truck routes should be put forth to the planning board or zoning board and have those land use boards deal with them accordingly. So,
Thank you, Trustee McLaughlin. Just to clarify, would you like us to conduct further study and adjourn this and take some more time? Or would you like us to close and vote on it today?
I don't want to delay the process because they've been waiting 2 years, and obviously we should be clear, as Ms. Riley said, this is about the code, not about the individual applicant. So I do think we should, if you want to close it, Mayor, this is your meeting. This is up to you. But I do think that we should look at expanding this to include light industrial and other commercial venues, so we cover all of our bases. So we make sure that we can have multiple options in the future. But if you want to close the meeting, that's up to you.
Any trustee can close and vote accordingly. I had the same vote as you do. Maybe I'll just defer this to Mr. Ellsworth. If you can just comment a bit more on the study here. I know this was directed towards residential, but can a food pantry open in an industrial area? And could you just maybe opine on some of those comments, just so all of the viewers here can understand?
Right. We focused the analysis on the residential areas because it was our understanding, and it's clear tonight that it was true, that was the concern. The fact that we didn't specifically analyze non-residential locations doesn't mean that it was ignored. There are probably multiples of the 6 residential sites that meet the criteria, maybe by an order of magnitude, that would meet the criteria in the business districts. But for the purpose of adopting the code, we thought that the analysis, it was okay to limit the analysis to the residential districts for the purposes of trying to identify the maximum impacts that could occur. Because non-residential districts, as some of the people who are concerned about the local law mentioned, are geared towards more intensive uses. So, and they allow more intensive uses. So it wasn't, we didn't think that we needed to go through the whole exercise of identifying every single non-residential parcel where that meets the criteria. So it is that the short answer is this use, if the board adopts the legislation as proposed, this use would be permissible in non-residential districts if they meet the criteria. If they're on or close to main roadways, if they're more than 10,000 square feet, if they don't contain an existing residential use, which is probably not going to be an issue in non-residential districts, they would be eligible for this type of facility.
So let me clarify that for the public. That if Heart of the Hamptons or any organization of a similar vein found a warehouse space to lease in a light industrial area in the village, they could file the necessary permits to go forward.
Correct. Correct. As long as it met the same criteria, which includes a minimum 10,000 square foot lot within 500 feet of a DOT designated major roadway, it would be eligible.
So for the record, this code change that we're doing, that we are proposing this evening, it blankets the entire village, including commercial and light industrial.
Correct.
Okay.
However, John, it does exclude MD Medical Office District and HA Hospital Office District.
Correct, because it was the code was set up so that it was in parallel to how the existing community service uses are handled in the code. And those districts do not allow things like churches or schools and things like that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could just ask Mr. Ellsworth one question as well. Mr. Ellis, so my understanding is that this law does not require the Heart of the Hamptons to occupy the space at 44 Meeting House Lane. They could occupy any of the 6 sites that you mentioned, or they could occupy any site that they might be able to find that met the requirements of the law in other areas. So it's we're not approving the Heart of the Hamptons location the application for 44 Meeting House Lane. It's just, this law is making it possible for a standalone food pantry use to be at that location or at the other 5 locations or at any other location that meets the requirements in the business district. Am I correct in that?
That's correct. This is just setting up the mechanism that will allow an application to be brought because food pantries are not identified in the zoning code currently. So it is not approving a food pantry at any location.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I just say 2 things? 3 things.
Please, no problem.
One, it's also important to note that the other properties that meet the proposed criteria in the residential district are not owned by the village. They're not ours. So, this is, we adopt the local law. It's Heart of the Hamptons to go forward, identify a piece of property that they want to go to. If they don't want to go to Meeting House Road, they can identify another piece of property and make an application for a special exception. Second thing is I just want to point out, I think this was said earlier in the night, the Heart of the Hamptons is currently operating in a location that is in a residential zone. Although it's the basement of the church, it's still currently, and has been for years, operating in a residential zone. So with that said, and I also want to point out that, in fact, there was a traffic study done concerning this issue, and it was a VHB engineering report, traffic study dated November 9th of 2021. So that document should be, part of the record, and then we can move forward from there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ken. I hope that that helps clarify. If there are any other comments from the board, we're happy to have them, and then I can close with some comments as well.
Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to comment about the building itself at 44 Meeting House Lane. That building was built many, many years ago, and the purpose was of that building was to serve the community. And that building has always done that. It has served this community, just like Heart of the Hamptons has served this community. And as Mr. Hattrick stated before, they are in a residential area with no impact, no complaints to any of the homeowners that live on Hill Street. And now they're just moving to the other side of Hill Street. They've been part of this community, and they are committed and they care about our community, and they have already demonstrated that they are willing to work with the people in the neighborhood that they're going to be part of, hopefully be part of. So the other thing I'd like to say is that so many people have said this process has been rushed, and just like Trustee McLaughlin stated, this has been going on for over 2 years. We've been, as a board, since I've been on the board, because it started even before I was on the board, we have gone through every single report and review and everything that they've asked us for, and there's no impact, as the engineers have stated, that Mr. Ellsworth has stated, in the community that we'll have to the community. And if there is, they've demonstrated that they have open ears, they want to be good neighbors, and I trust that they will be.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Are there any other comments from the board? If not, I can make a few comments here as well. I see Lane, if he left. Okay, so I will conclude by saying a few remarks. First, I'll further Trustee Rest's comments about those who had mentioned the process, and I
Can you
enjoy
hear
quoting
me?
the Lane.
It's Lane.
Yes, we can hear you. And
Can you
now
hear
you've got
me?
a minute and a half.
It's Lane. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Lane.
Yes, we can hear you. Continue,
Can you hear
Lane.
me?
Yes, Lane, you can continue.
It's Lane. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Hello,
Wait,
it's Lane.
who
Can
is
you
it?
hear me?
Lane, I think
Can
you
you
have a
hear me?
minute.
It's Lane.
I think he has a minute and a half left on his clock.
I don't know if you can hear me.
We
Yes,
can
we
hear you,
can.
just speak.
We
You
can hear
can
you.
or you can't?
Yes,
Yes,
we
we
can.
can.
You can?
Yes,
If you can hear me, should I start talking?
please
Okay,
talk.
I'm gonna talk. Okay. I can't see you, but I hope you can hear me. I was very frustrated. I have a feeling that whatever I said the last time was all muffled or over, what I tried to say was that it seems that everyone that's opposed to this realizes that they're not going to get anywhere by opposing Heart of the Hamptons and saying it's a terrible idea to feed people that don't even live in the village. They come from outside the village, some of these people. Okay, so they've now all come on board and said, yes, we're all for Heart of the Hamptons. We want to see them move ahead. And so now everybody's gotten on that bandwagon. The problem is that Mr. McFarland, his daughter, who has been a trustee and knows the ins and outs of the Village Hall, and she's in here in Village Hall every day trying to find out what's going on. Freedom of information. That's all she wants to know day in and day out. It's the talk of the village. And then Mr. McFarland, who says that he's not very good at speaking, goes ahead, but he's fantastic. We both know, or all three of us know, at letter writing, since I have a number of his letters that he's written, and I don't think he wants them published and made public. And then this lawyer that they hired, I think they ought to find a new lawyer because his facts are upside down. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm not a lawyer. I made the mistake of taking 1 year of law school, 1 semester of law school. I did pass it, and I know that he's not a lawyer. Anyway, in ending, before you cut me off, I just want to say we need a food pantry here. Stop jerking us around. Stop costing this village a ton of money, trying to see how long you can stall this off, McFarland. Let's just move ahead. They were given this space. It's something they can afford. What do you want them to do? Go out and find something and pay $50,000 and give $50,000 to some landlord so that they don't have money for food? Stop it. You're wasting our time and you're wasting the village's time. That's all I have to say. And I probably have taken less than 3 minutes. I hope I didn't gobble it all up this time.
Thank you, Lane.
Thank you, Lane.
Thank you very much, Lane.
Thank you, Lane.
So I will conclude here with a few comments, and then we can make a motion to close the public hearing. First thing I wanted to say is I'll just reiterate what Trustee Resta said regarding the process and the way this went down. As the former New York State Senator Daniel Moynihan said, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but they're not entitled to their own facts. And the fact of the matter is that everything that was conducted here was conducted within New York State law. We noticed meetings properly. We made sure everything was available to the public. No one was denied anything, and the process was done appropriately and again via New York State law. I would also add that it's been a very long process, and this process is far from over. There will be a planning board, likely public hearing, where there'll be a site plan review. And if there's any exterior work, there will also be a hearing in front of the Architecture Review Board, among other presentations. So this is a very long process. We're happy to get behind this. However, the job of our Board of Trustees is to make decisions as to what we think would be best for the village, and providing a special exception permit here, in at least my opinion, but I believe it will be a unanimous vote tonight of all the trustees, which were entitled to one and one vote only, what we believe is the best foot forward for the village. And the last thing I'll say is that a lot of people, I enjoy speaking kind of my thoughts about the overall economy, but over the last few years, particularly the last two, but really over the last decade, there has been just a massive expansion in the price of assets, and the 1% of the 1% have gotten extremely wealthy, and everyone else has been left behind. And in particular, when you have a minimum wage, not even in Suffolk County, but in New York City of $15 an hour, it's actually behind in Suffolk, which maybe a few years ago seemed appropriate. Most people who are working here that provide the services that we need our village to survive are likely making minimum wage or just above minimum wage, which in the village of Southampton can barely get you anything. And so when you have a food pantry here that's imperative, as Molly Bishop pointed out, serves 18% of those who attend are village residents, people that we know and love, but maybe we don't realize that they're attending Heart of the Hamptons for food. We're in a situation where it is getting increasingly hard for people to be able to afford to live and work and eat and have other types of livable conditions in Southampton and really across the state of New York. So the fact that we're even fighting over a food pantry here doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Though I do understand why some people who wanted to know why this would be an ideal location have that question. I would recommend reaching out to Molly Bishop, who's the executive director of the Heart of the Hamptons. But again, we are in a situation where as things get more and more expensive, as we see more and more inflation, as we see times get even tougher, as we exit a pandemic, as it becomes an endemic, we are in a very tough situation, not just for a very small percentage of people, but for a large percentage of people who are having a very difficult time at the moment providing food for the table and finding a place to live. And the Heart of the Hamptons is barely a safety net. I mean, it is really essentially just an opportunity to get food 2 days a week, but this is not even a full safety net. So the fact of the matter is, this is an incredibly important asset for the community, and I do believe that our village board should get behind it in its entirety. So that's what I wanted to conclude with. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a
Thank you,
second?
Mr. Ellsworth.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll continue here with we're not going to do comments from board members tonight because this is a hearing regarding this public hearing. But I'd like to make a motion. Actually, I'd like to review the suggested resolution. Charlene, I'll let you read that one so we can have a vote here.
Charlene, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Hi, Charlene. There actually should be two suggested resolutions. The first resolution should be the secret declaration. So, whereas the Board of Trustees has determined that this adoption of this local law is a type 1 action, and based upon the full environmental assessment form and related documents and analysis performed by Nelson Pope Voorhees, the village hereby now declares the matter to be a type 1 action under SECRA, and hereby declare a negative declaration as no significant environmental impact will be created by the adoption of this local law. And that can be in the way of a resolution.
I can I make a motion for that resolution that you just stated?
Please.
Okay, I'll make a motion on that resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and
so let the
then-
record show. So there's all 5 members of the Board of Trustees voted affirmatively for that. Is that correct?
Yes, so noted.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the second resolution is resolved that the Board of Trustees, Board of the Incorporated Village of Southampton Village approves local law 4-2002, a proposal to amend chapter 116 of the Village Code re special exception uses. Is there a second? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Any
opposed? Ken, is there anything additional we need to do here tonight outside of those two resolutions?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll make a motion then to adjourn the meeting to executive session for the purpose of discussing contractual litigation and specific village personnel matters. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion to exit executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. What's the time right now?
It's
Well,
7:11.
7-Eleven.
The time is 7:11. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a
Mr.
second?
Mayor, first, let the record reflect that no action or motions were made in executive session.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
All right, with that said, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?